Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon of the Chabad House of Delmar, and we have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Suzie Rosenberg. You're a doctor, so that's very special. And why I brought you in, and you're also a psychiatrist, maybe you should analyze me. No, that's not why I'm bringing you in. It's just because you're very special, because as a Chabad person, you went with my wife, Clara, to a women's convention, and I want to talk to you about that and what you observed from that, and like all the women, that's also very special. I just want you to bring in the women, just don't sit in the kitchen and do nothing, but that they're the leaders, so I'll let you do the talking, but welcome to the Jewish View, and tell us your impressions of that women's convention.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rabbi Simon. It's a privilege and an honor. It was so special to attend the Conference of Women Shluchos in Crown Heights. My first impression was of the overwhelming hospitality of the community. There were 4,500, 5,000 of the Rebbe's women emissaries from all over the world gathered in this small community in Brooklyn, plus 100 guests in a special dedicated guest program. And the whole community turned out, the people who organized the conference really turned out to take care of us guests. And to me that was expressive of the values of the community. They welcomed us, they treated us well, they provided wonderful teachers and lecturers, and I learned a whole lot during my time there in Crown Heights. It was a very special.
Yeah, I just want to underscore, it's excellent. First of all, that the openness, I mean, again, it sounds nice, it is nice, but again, maybe people always think of the quote-unquote, I don't like using the word ultra-Orthodox, or the Hasidic community is closed off and they don't want to have any outsiders come in. Mm-hmm. So you have that kind of impression that unfortunately many people do have, but that's why I want to underscore what you're saying. I mean, you're just a visitor, and still you were in open arms. Not like, who are you and what are you doing here, and you're a foreigner, that kind of idea.
If anything, the opposite. Here's where you want to get a book. Here's a good bookstore. You want to stop and get something to eat. Here's a good. I mean, really welcoming and really open, and very accepting. I mean, we women guests came from. There were women from Australia, from England, from Brazil, from states, from Oregon, California, Washington. I mean, I met women, even just in the guest program, from all over the world. And they come with their own way of being, and they're on their own spiritual journeys, and just welcomed like a member of the family. And that was the first overall impression. And then to hear some of the speakers from the women shluchos, the women who are out in the world doing their Rebbe's work, one thing in particular really struck me was how in just a few short years, the way this one woman speaker put it was the Rebbe made chassids out of the women, that every woman in the Rebbe's community had their own work, had their own place, had their own contributions to make, and was no less a partner in spreading Yiddishkeit to Jews around the world than their rabbi husbands. And we certainly experienced that here locally, with you and Mrs. Simon and Clara, having created the foundation of such a giving community here for us. And now your son, Rabbi Zalman, and his beautiful wife, Chani, same thing. You walk into Chabad in Delmar, and just as we walked into the shul when it was in your house on Ellesmere, and you are welcome. You are welcome. And we share this beautiful heritage with everybody who walks in the door. So that's what the conference was kind of about for me, was experiencing that kind of generous sharing of learning. We had some wonderful teachers. Particularly, I can say that one of the highlights of the whole experience for me was, it was my first time.
And they had special speakers for, like you say, the 100
just
guests.
the guests.
That's
yeah.
interesting. You
And
just,
Yeah, that's when I say the generosity, this is part of what I'm talking about, is these wonderful teachers. So somebody that I admire and have admired for some time from afar, from up here, is Rabbi Shais Taub, who is, he's the author of a book called God of Our Understanding, which is related to recovery in the addiction community. But he's also a very incredible teacher of Tanya, one of the foundational books of Chabad Hasidus. And he came to talk to us at the Rebbe's gravesite, at the Ohel, to explain to us some of what it means to come to the Ohel, and to have an opportunity to meet him and be taught in a small, group setting was, a real privilege. I really felt privileged to do so.
Yeah, you got really the top-notch speakers, like you were saying. I mean, he is one of the top Lubavitch speakers. So you really got enthralled by that. No, it's important, that, it becomes effusive in that all the women. But what I'd say, again, you're saying it very nicely, but I just want to underscore for our viewers, like here you're saying women came from all over, very nice. But where's their husbands? Well, they're at home. So where do you actually have this? And again, just even for, I'm not even talking about Hasidic or other Hasidic groups or ultra-Orthodox, but you're talking about even Americans. Well, that the woman will go off to their convention, leave the husband alone with the children, and again, my children are grown up, but we're just taking care of, take care of yourself. It's Shabbos, and usually Shabbos is with a family. Well, sorry, we're leaving. Not sorry, but I'm just saying they're all alone. Thousands of women are like that, and the husbands are, like I say, nothing sorry about it. The husbands are very glad. Of course, I'm amongst them, of course, to have Clara go, and this is great for her. But that itself, because again, one of the biggest things is women's lib. We can do our own thing. And, you don't have bigger women's lib than this convention. We're leaving the husbands alone with the kids. There's always a lot of kids in a Hasidic life, but you're staying at home, and I'm going off with thousands of the other women to be educated and to be enthused by, like what you were saying about. So again, it's not just, okay, that's nice women getting together. This is an incredible idea. I don't know if there's any other thing in the world that just women just leave their husbands and their families and just saying, hey, we're getting together on our own.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because you made me think about the times that I went to the American Psychiatric Association conferences, which are once a year, and you get on a plane and you go to wherever they're going. And I actually wound up thinking about that when I was at the conference in Crown Heights, because there were more people at the conference in Crown Heights than I've ever seen at the APA. Not to mention they were all women, and not to mention it was actually better organized and better run than the American Psychiatric. I was really blown away by the organization. Nothing was left to change, and that sort of expressed the care and the dignity that was brought to bear on creating and offering this program to 100 guests. It was really amazing. Some of the women, told stories. The women emissaries told stories that, for example, that we had a speaker who was with her husband and family in the Ukraine. And when the war came to where they were, they got to a point where most of their community was leaving, and they had to leave, And then after,
There's some real terrible story. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously for everybody in the Ukraine,
Yeah.
they're being bombed and all that.
after sort of reorienting and rejiggering, and they had prayed and they had consulted their mentors, they decided they needed to go back to whatever remnants of their Jewish community was still there in the Ukraine, and they went back with their
That's
families.
incredible, yeah.
And you know, to hear this woman talk about what motivated her to go back into a war zone when she had the opportunity and capacity to be back here in the United States, but she chose to go back. And the way she talked about her sense of mission was clear that, in a way, she's like an ordinary person doing extraordinary things. And that story was amplified through all these women talking about some of the things they've done in the world. And then, Rabbi, the roll call is so thrilling. What they do is they have a screen and they roll every place in the world there is a Chabad house or a Chabad family serving a Jewish community. And you see places like I couldn't even pronounce. I don't even know where they are on a map. You know, one family in Mauritius and one family in Malta and one family in, you know, Kakamami land.
Yeah.
I mean, and you think, what does it take for a young couple to take their little babies and children and go move somewhere in the world just to be of service to the Jewish community that might pass through their orbit? It's inconceivable. And then you think how the Rebbe and his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, started this movement of service is just amazing. And to get to hear those stories and be part of it at the keynote, at the conference, if anybody out there has an opportunity to go learn in Crown Heights or attend as a guest, I would so highly encourage you to look into it. It is probably the most nourishing Jewish setting that I have been privileged to be part of in my life.
Yeah, again, I take your words, but I just want to, like I say, emphasize them to our audience. Like, you're taking a young woman, and they're a young 20s, and you're going, all right, you go to LA, you go to Chicago, all right, nice, there's nice Jewish communities there, fine. But you're going to places like, say, I don't know every place I'm good in geography, and you take a young couple, and they're used to like living in Crown Heights. Your kosher store's a block away, and your friends are there, and you're all alone, so to speak. And it's almost like parachuting down behind the lines. I mean, there's no fighting on, thank God, maybe in Ukraine, but in other places. But I'm just saying, you're all alone, so to speak, and saying, all right, find some friends and build up a community. And halfway around the globe, away from family, and again, in Jewish life and the Hasidic life, family is so important, friends are so important. Okay, leave that, and you're going to go away into, like you say, Yehupitzville, and somewhere halfway around the country where you can't just visit them every other day, for example. And again, just underscore how incredible these people are to do this, and you're dealing with young people, and it just, like you said already, but the Rebbe has emphasized that. He says, I will be with you spiritually. They have spiritual strength, again, even with physical strength, because no one's providing them with a Cadillac and $1 million, to say the least. And they have to, you're on your own, and fundraise, and find friends, and build up a community, and they all have blessings, the truth is, and they actually do build up communities and beautiful Chabad houses and places, like you say, I don't even know where they are either, and then you see pictures, oh yeah, after 5-10 years we got a beautiful place, and people are coming for Hanukkah and Rosh Hashanah, the high holidays. So again, just to emphasize what you're saying, how incredible it really is for these young couples, and probably even, sometimes you'd say even more for young women, because they're more again, a guy goes to be a soldier and he goes out there and he conquered the world. And here, these are young Jewish things. They're in their 20s and they're ready to have that stimulus and that energy to really enthusiasm to go out there and go halfway around the world and conquer the world, the Jewish world.
I'm smiling, and not to be a psychiatrist and start to interview you, but Rabbi Simon, you and Clara were that young couple that went out to the wilds of Del Mar, and I mean, you have built the foundation of this Jewish life in Bethlehem.
Well, I thank you very much, because we really didn't have much at the beginning. But again, it's really, I don't think anybody, and I know nobody will say that, is because I'm great and I have charisma and I'm going to conquer the world. We all know that it's the Rebbe's powers that is built up. The Rebbe came from, I've been around a long time, even though I tell everyone I'm 29. But in any case, my white beard gives it away. But in any case, that really was very small at the beginning. After World War II, the Hasidic community was decimated, and very few people there. And it's what you see today is just built up. Chabad surely is the biggest, because they've gone out and outreached and brought in Balchuvas, repenters, and Claire and I are part of that. But it's the Rebbe's powers that do it. But I'm also humbled because, all right, for example, we're in Del Mar 3 hours out of New York, and then someone goes to Hong Kong. I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready to go to Hong Kong. But my kids themselves have gone, to outreach to different places around United States and Canada. And I know, other kids have gone to foreign countries. So I'm humbled by them that they can go out there and be away from everything. But it's really the power of the Rebbe. You see the godliness in it, that the Rebbe is actually has grown up. And like you say, again, going back to the woman's issue, again, now it's women's lib, and the Rebbe always felt in the Hasidic that the women are very important. And again, I'm trying to emphasize this because I know people think, oh, well, Hasidim don't care about women, or they care, you sit in the kitchen and make me dinner. And that is not at all true. And the Rebbe always had the women's conventions. They were a lot smaller, 50 years ago. But on the other hand, he always spoke, and this is, again, you compare this and contrast this. The women were in 770, there's pictures of that. And the Rebbe, he's gone for 30 years now, but he talked specifically to women. I was a yeshiva student many years ago, to say the least. And they said, you have to leave the shul. It's only for the women. We're taking over. And here the Rebbe sat down by himself and talked to these women. So again, we grew up with this, that the Rebbe, again, you could say children also. Who cares, some 7-year-old little kid, and the Rebbe, no, that child is important, and there's an importance to children. There's an important, we can go on and on. The reason I go to prisons, one of my 10 jobs, is because, everybody even I have people tell me, what are you bothering with them, Rabbi? What do you care about them, lowlifes, a person in prison? The Rebbe, no, they're a Jewish person, and all right, maybe they did something wrong, doesn't mean they're totally bad, and just on, but we see that compared to, again, even women's libs, so we can do just as good as the men, and actually, on the contrary, that, many times some people on their station had said, and the rabbi, I'm the co-director,
Right.
because, and you don't see that in the world also. People say, my wife helps me out, and supports me. All right, very nice. But, to say on the station head that this is the co-director, it's myself and my wife. But you see that, and it's very important that...
And the energy of that, in this special year, one of the things I've learned from hanging around with you guys at the Chabad house is that this is a Hakel year, the year following the Shemitah year, the year of letting the land rest, is a year of gathering.
In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, and then that all the Jews, men, women, and children, had to go to the temple in Jerusalem.
And the spiritual energy of this year is such that, you know, there's extra support for these gatherings. And I think I felt some of that at the Keynes as well, that,
Excellent.
you know, some good spiritual energy was available to take home and to bring people together, and always for good.
Well, that's excellent. I mean, again, you see, that again, it's just like the Purim story that we're saying that there's an energy in the Torah. It's not like some old-fashioned Jewish book, or I always go Jewish Aesop's fables. No, they're real stories, and the energy is still there, even though the real Hakel, as you're saying, the gathering stopped when there was no temple. That's 2,000 years. That's 2,000 years. But you see the energy of the Torah continues on. It's not like gone and past. But you actually, it's good that you're tuned into it, that you're learning these kind of ideas, and you feel them, that there's an energy right there.
Very much so. I'm looking forward to Purim at Chabad House.
Yeah. Well, Purim, and again, people view it throughout the year, Passover and Rosh Hashanah, and people do come together at those times. They should come together all the time, but especially people like coming for the holidays, and a special energy there. So, you know, I just wanted to again reiterate to every person, I brought in the doctor here because not only is she a woman, of course, but she is a doctor, and she, you know, she's educated, and your opinion to the people means a little bit more. I mean, I could say the women are liberated, and oh yeah, Rabbi, good, while your wife's sitting in the kitchen. Yeah, women are liberated, but you know, here you're a woman and saying it yourself, and obviously no one's making you say anything that you don't feel like that, and you're an educated person. So I think it's very important that you came on the Jewish View, and you told your impressions of this convention, and like you say, inviting more and more women, they shouldn't feel like an outsider in Jewish culture and Jewish education. If anything, the Rebbe always said they're in the forefront. Mm-hmm. Many times, we don't have time for it now, I can go into all these projects, that the women were better than men. You talk about Purim, that the Rebbe brings out, it's not the Mordechai, he's the head Jewish rabbi. Call it on his name. Or Mordechai and Esther, give them at least half credit. No, it's called Megillus Esther. It's after the woman. The Esther is the heroine of the story, but Mordechai is important too in the story. Mm-hmm. But it was named after Esther because she was the leading person. So if anything, the women are the leaders in the Jewish communities. And like I say, maybe even you say co-coordinators, co-directors. If anything, they should be on the forefront of Jewish life, and surely in their family and outreach to the other women. So thanks very much, Doctor, for being on the Jewish View.
My pleasure.
And I'm glad hopefully that people will enjoy the show also. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.